Hi, welcome to your first session on understanding variables. This session is very important because you'll understand how do you use variables. First of all, you'll understand what are variables, how do you use them, and you'll get a decent idea about when do you use variables and when do you not use variables. So let's get right to it. In order to break down variables, let's go back to the time when you used to study mathematics in school. When we were in school, we used algebra, and algebra had always had the concept where there was one particular thing that you need to look for, and you had to find a value for that. So we always put that what we need to find as an x. So x was what you need to find, and there was a value that was associated with it. Like you need to find the number of apples on a tree, and then there was some amount of data, and using that you would always say let the number of apples be x, and then ultimately you would find out an answer that okay, x is equal to a value of, let's say, 10 or 15 or 100 or whatever. Now your letter x was not always fixed, right? You could always select any other letter, or you could also get a different answer, right? Like depending on the inputs, your answer could also change. So the point is that when you are using variables is not something that is fixed. Variables is always something that has a name. All right. So when you say a variable name, the name is basically a string of letters. So it could be X, it could be ABC, it could be India, it could be anything, right? So that is basically a string of letters that makes up your variable, and that variable is associated with a value, right? The variable alone cannot do much. The value with the variable makes a combination wherein it is somewhat like a lock and key. So if you have the right variable and you have the right value, in that case it will help you to proceed with it. Now that we've understood the variable, let's understand why do we need a variable in the first place. Now variables are very important because there are certain limitations in every aspect of when you are supposed to build strategies. So let's assume you have one particular indicator that is available on TradingView, and this indicator is something that is difficult to build on Tradetron, on the condition builder, or it is simple that you do not want to take the extra effort to build the same indicator again, right? You've already worked on building it once on one platform, so why would you want to reinvent the wheel and build it again? When you have certain situations where you need an external source to be giving a command to Tradetron, that is when you need to generate a variable. Or if you're using a Python code within Tradetron and that Python code generates a signal, there has to be a way by which your Tradetron condition builder is able to understand and fetch and talk to some external source. That is when you need variables. Now, when you see any keyword on Tradetron, all right. So just to elaborate more on the need for variables, when you see any keyword on Tradetron, all right, someone, like let's say this Fisher transform, right? Someone has put their effort into actually defining what exactly is Fisher transform, which is why you can directly use a position keyword and then use that particular technical indicator as Fisher transform. What if no one had actually defined this keyword? In that case, you would have to use something like a variable and associate a value with it in order to generate your trigger for an entry. So now that we have some understanding about what are keywords, what are variables, how are variables different from keywords, now let's see how do we integrate both. So how do we use certain keywords by which we can input our own variables, so that Tradetron is now knowing, like when you use these keywords, Tradetron now knows that these particular keywords are supposed to look for a variable that is not within Tradetron. It is coming from an external source, or it is coming from a Python code within your Tradetron strategy. So let's get into what should be the right format in order to input your variables. So you can see I have my strategy condition builder, my strategy create page ready, and here is my entry condition set. So now I will just click on add, and I will basically add my condition. Now whenever you need to call in a variable, you always need to have something called get runtime keyword. So you'll see there's a keyword called get runtime and there's get runtime number. Now, what is the difference and how do you use both of these is something that we'll come to in later stages of this course. Um, First, let's understand get runtime. So when you select get runtime, it basically gives you an option to input your variable name. Now this variable name is where you put your variable that you have defined. Now if you have defined variable as X, you'll put in X. If you have defined variable as, let's say, Nifty, you'll put in Nifty out here. Now do remember that this particular variable name is case and space sensitive. So if I put Nifty space and I click on OK, then if my variable name is Nifty and if the system is checking for Nifty space, it will not work. So you have to be very careful about the variable name that you put in your get runtime keyword. Now that we have understood that you can use get runtime or get runtime number to add your variable name. Let's understand how do we check the value of that variable. So when you say Nifty could assume any value, right? Like we saw in the apple example, there could be one apple, there could be 100 apples, there could be 20,000 apples. How do we check if Nifty is one particular number? Is Nifty equal to, let's say, 17,000 or 1 or 0? So now we are looking at this runtime variable. Now this is not Nifty, the index per se. We are looking at a variable called Nifty and we are checking if it has a value. So if we want to check if that Nifty has a value of, let's say, 1, so you can use get runtime is equal to number and then you can select number 1. So if in cases when you are sending a variable as Nifty with a value as number 1, this is how your condition builder should look like. You are sending Nifty is equal to number 1. Now along with this you can add other conditions as well. We will come to that in the next series of in the next session of this course. So I hope this session was helpful. Thank you.